The geopolitical situation and Sweden's great power ambitions were two central factors that shaped the architecture of an expanding Stockholm during the 17th century. The 1634 Act of Government, adopted during Queen Christina's regent government with Axel Oxenstierna as the driving force, centralized the state apparatus through the establishment of governmental institutions. Already at the beginning of the century, Stockholm underwent a transformation through the gradual demolition of the medieval city wall, whose defensive purpose had played out and which hindered physical expansion and the ambition to form a lucrative trading city. A devastating fire of September the 1st, 1625, that Frank had already mentioned, accelerated this process. The fire, which started in a brewhouse at Kåkbrinken, spread quickly and completely destroyed farms on Västerlånggatan, south of Kåkbrinken, up towards Skomakargatan. The German church caught fire on 2 occasions, but was successfully extinguished. The issue of responsibility was never fully investigated, but the need for improved fire protection was established. The Governor-General Claes Fleming and the city engineer Anders Torstensson carried out a systematic regulation. Streets such as Norrmalm, Drottninggatan and Regeringsgatan were drawn in straight lines, and in the Old Town, Stora and Lilla Nygatan were laid out according to a grid. The aim was to both increase fire safety and to create a representative capital. It is important to emphasize the aesthetic dimension. The facades were to be built in stone with plaster and rusticated plinths. Here, function was combined with a conscious architectural language, with the Dutch Renaissance serving as a model. A visible manifestation of the kingdom's ambition was Skeppsbron. The medieval short line was modernized by demolishing the wall with 9 watchtowers and erecting gable houses in the Central European style, later supplemented with mansard roof, which was entirely in line with Gustavus Adolphus' often cited demands for buildings implying honor and glory. Although few noble palaces were built, the area became established as the center of the growing merchant nobility. Families such as Grill, Hebbe and Jennings built burgher houses that combined splendor with function. These houses marked the transition from a medieval market town to modern trading metropolis. The House of Nobility, established through the Swedish nobility in 1626 with the support of Gustavus Adolphus as a permanent meeting place for the nobility, represents a blend of late Renaissance and Baroque with architectural references from Andrea Palladio's I Quattro Libri dell'Architettura. The land was purchased by Axel Oxenstierna, who abandoned the original plans for a private palace, and in 1641 sold the site to his colleagues in the Swedish nobility, at a price advantageous to them. The construction process spanned 3 decades and involved 4 main architects. The first architect, Simon de la Vallée, designed a French-inspired Renaissance palace with double courtyards. His involvement was abruptly cut short when he died from injuries sustained after being attacked on Stortorget in 1642 by Erik Karlsson Oxenstierna, a relative to Axel Oxenstierna, I should mention. After the death of Simon de la Vallée, a German named Heinrich Wilhelm took over the project and simplified the plan, but preserved the monumental character. The mascarons of the window consoles are a legacy of Wilhelm's stone masonry. After Heinrich Wilhelm's death, Amsterdam-born Justus Swingbom took over. He added Palladian elements such as pilasters with Corinthian capitals and festons of fruit, melons, pears, apples, plums and grapes, and flowers, sunflowers, roses and tulips, for instance, all made in sandstone. Art historian Ragnar Josefsson has cited disagreement with the client as the reason why it was ultimately Simon de la Vallée's son, Jean, who completed the building. Jean de la Vallée added round windows under the ceiling frieze and a mansard roof with a curved profile, which became a model in Sweden. The ceiling sculptures, inspired by Cesare Ripa's Iconologica, personify noble virtues such as nobilitas and arte et marte. The exterior of the House of Nobility was thus not only a grandiose palace, but also a representation of the nobility's self-understanding. Axel Oxenstierna's own palace was also designed by Jean de la Vallée, and construction began in 1653. De la Vallée dealt with the topographical challenges by creating false perspectives to minimize the experience of the asymmetrical site facing the nearby street Trångsund. The facade in Roman mannerism has 5 floors of varying height, rusticated sandstone plinth, rounded arch window frames, and plastered walls. The original cornice with connected round windows and hipped roof is reminiscent of Dutch and Flemish models. The palace served as the Bank of the State of Sweden from 1668. The Bonde Palace at Riddarhustorget, built in 1662 to 1673 for Gustav Bonde, was mainly designed by Jean de la Vallée also, with contributions from Nicodemus Tessin the Elder. The palace consists of a rectangular central building with paired wings, whitewashed facades, and high copper roofs with domed pavilions, which were destroyed in fire in 1710. The room layout included a vestibule, audience room, and a 32-meter-long gallery on the main floor and a banquet hall on the upper floor. Private rooms such as bedchambers, wardrobes, and a tenant's apartment were located in the southwest wing. After Gustav Bonde's death in May 1667, his widow, Anna Kristina Natt och Dag, took over the responsibility as builder. She wanted de la Vallée to complete the work, but he let his student, Matthias Spieler, lead the remainder of the project. The palace was sold to the city in 1730 and became the town hall after renovations in 1753. The Wrangel Palace was built given to Carl Gustav Wrangel by Queen Christina. The palace combines the technical expertise of the 2 architects, Jean de la Vallée, with Nicodemus Tessin the Elder's pursuit of symmetry and proportions. The result was a building characterized by its towers and magnificent location by the water. The interior was distinguished by the vestibule with a view of Riddarfjärden, a scenery effect typical of the Baroque. The vestibule was divided into 3 naves by 4 pairs of columns, which carried transverse and longitudinal arches that divided the room into 6 almost square sections. In the side sections, there were 3 doors each, some of which were so-called false doors, intended to maintain rhythm and symmetry. However, there was no staircase in the central room. The stairs to the upper floors were located in the towers of the wings. Around 1660, the decision was made to whitewash the facade and paint the moldings grey. In 1693, the Wrangel Palace was ravaged by fire, and 4 years later, Tessin the Younger carried out extensive reconstructions as a result of another fire, as the Wrangel Palace was temporarily converted into a residence for the royal family after the destruction of the castle Tre Kronor. South of Stockholm Palace, at Slottsbacken 4, Nicodemus Tessin the Younger was given the unique opportunity to realize his professional ambitions and ideals in the form of his own palace. The site was small and uneven, but Tessin managed to create a city palace where facades, interiors, and gardens were united into a unified whole. The facade clearly reflects his Roman models, Palazzo Barberini and Palazzo Chigi, with a rusticated ground floor, elegant main floor, and prominent attic. The portal is flanked by Bernard Fouquet's Atlases, which is a reference to Gian Lorenzo Bernini's use of sculpture elements in architecture. The ceremonial suite of the state apartments include halls with an iconographic program around Apollo Musagetes, executed by French artists and sculptors such as Everard Chevaux and Jacques Fouquet. In the garden, Tessin created an optical illusion with diverging wings and a perspective passage with clear traces of Francesco Borromini's ditto in the Palazzo Spada in Rome. Borromini's swapping use of concave and convex architectural elements returns here as a frame for the André Le Notre-inspired boxwood embroidery parterre. The palace was inaugurated in 1701 with a grand celebration. The Katarina Church was founded in 1654 after the division of the Maria Magdalena congregation. The church was built according to a Greek cruciform plan. Jean de la Vallée wanted to place the altar in the center of the cross, in line with international central churches. But the congregation demanded a more traditional Eastern orientation. The church was destroyed by fire in 1723 and rebuilt under the direction of Göran Joshua Adelkrantz. The tower now took on its characteristic octagonal shape, while the interior was enriched by Burkhard Precht's pulpit and a new altar under the supervision of Nicodemus Tessin the Younger. Hedvig Eleonora Church was given its octagonal shape by the architect Jean de la Vallée. The commission, which began in 1669, is clearly influenced by San Vitale in Ravenna with Dutch adaptations. The interior bears fewer Byzantine traces with its Corinthian columns, cross walls, and an altarpiece with dramatic angels in motion, designed by previously mentioned Göran Joshua Adelkrantz, executed by Petter Norberg, while the altarpiece depicting Jesus on the cross was painted by Georg Engelhardt Schröder. The construction process was marked by interruptions, delays, different wills, and financial problems, and the church was not consecrated until 1737. Even then, with provisional elements from the adjacent wooden church that had temporarily served the congregation. And some final conclusion and remarks. 17th century Stockholm underwent a transformation of unprecedented magnitude. In just a few decades, the medieval organically, or rather uncontrolled perhaps, growing city was replaced by a Baroque aspiring capital, characterized by grid plans, monumental palaces, and churches with international models. The architecture expressed the ambitions of the Great Power Project to manifest order, power, and cultural weight. At the same time, the projects were often held back by limitations, financial, political, and practical. The palaces of Bonde and Wrangel never fully became the monuments that the builders had intended. Erik Dahlberg's collection of engravings, Suecia Antiqua Etodierna, summarizes the era in many ways. The engravings show Sweden and its buildings in an idealized form, more splendid than reality allowed. This makes the work a symbol of the entire Great Power era, as much vision and dream as reality. Thank you.